From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, show about Star Wars, pop culture, the ultimate adventure, life itself. This is Star Wars Ranked. I'm Ken Napson.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and this is still Star Wars Ranked. I also still have a little bit of a cold, so apologies for a bit of a gruff voice, and if there's any sudden muting, it's because my head needs to make a noise that you don't need to hear.
This is the episode for a gruff voice. This is where you need to employ that gruff voice here.
Yeah, he's no good to me if he has a slight head cold.
Exactly. His sinuses are stuffed up. We are here to rank some things, as we love doing here from time to time. And this is the updated version of Star Wars Ranked. This is a series we launched years ago, along with things like Databank Brawl and all those things. And over the years, it's changed. And now here we are to rank things on the fly. We'll be doing 10 today. That seemed to be one thing. This is an ongoing, I don't know, Joseph, it's like a stand-up act or, I don't know, an improv scene where you pick up on things and we're finding this, and two people, we've been doing 5, 3 people 10. But I think people feel when we only rank 5 things together, we're cheating them, and I don't disagree with that. So 10 today. 10 today.
This is great.
Yeah, our favorite Star Wars bounty hunters. That's a big one. That's a big topic.
It is, and it's definitely something we've talked about on and off over the years, but I'm happy to come back and have, like, what's changed? Have we changed? Have our view of bounty hunters changed in Star Wars since we've gotten a little bit more of a spotlight? I'm very excited for this, and I'm also just very excited to follow whatever format that you have in mind for us, because I don't always wrap my head around this one.
It's free forming it. We're jazz musicians here. We're playing the notes that don't exist. I don't know. And yeah, you're right. I was looking. I think we did do a Star Wars Ranked Bounty Hunters maybe, and I had this like, maybe we can't do that. Then it's like you look at it's like 2016. There's like 50 new bounty hunters.
Yes,
we're revisiting. So the choices are out there. We're gonna rank 10 to 1. We'll alternate our picks here. As we throw it out, like I said, it's a negotiation. That's what the list is now. But I don't, it's not like I'm going to talk you out on your love of a bounty hunter. We'll just see how this goes. It's kind of fun to do this here. There's a lot of choices, big names. Star Wars bounty hunters. It's kind of that third category, right, Joseph? There's the Jedi. There's kind of Rebels, Imperials, that war going on there. And then there's like the underbelly, the underworld. And that's always been a key part of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's stayed that way, but it is a very original trilogy perspective. It's literally the way that my brother and I divided our action figures when it was time to play. We lined up at first it was the bad guys and the good guys. And like, no, we need more nuance because they're Imperial bad guys and they're bounty hunters. And back then also, bounty hunters were bad guys, and we have much more nuance than that now.
We do, and while the sequel trilogy is relatively light on bounty hunters, the Disney Plus era has absolutely introduced us to many great bounty hunters. In fact, they've centered some shows around it, and also the great comic series Bounty Hunters. I don't know if I have a lot of choices from there, but that's out there. So bounty hunters still live strong in this galaxy, as we know. Yes. Just some choices, I don't know. Boba Fett, I've heard of him. IG-88, IG-11, Cad Bane, Singh. Greedo, I think, was the first actual bounty hunter on screen in 77. We're going to count Asajj Ventress. She worked as a bounty hunter. That counts. I want to shout out our listener, David Mackay, who this morning, the day of our recording in a live stream, suggested Pillbush, which is the Ewok bounty hunter for the video game Star Wars Hunters.
I have some Googling to do live on air. Pillbush?
Pillbush. P-I-L Bush. Pillbush.
I thought you were going to say Pillboy from The Good Place. It's entirely different. Like, I don't know. Oh, my Lord. That's not what I was expecting.
Right?
Look so friendly. Pillbush abilities revealed. All right. Very, very good to know.
So I'm not saying Pillbush makes our list, but he might make your list out there. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and then leave a comment down below with your list. It's subjective. All of our conversations here in Star Wars come from our perspective. We always say that this isn't the definitive best of. This is our favorite Star Wars bounty hunters. We are going to begin. Joseph, we'll begin with your number 10 nominee here.
Okay. Can I ask you a question first?
Yeah.
Before I do my number 10. do you have a metric in your soul that you are using for your subjective list of what makes a good bounty hunter?
That's a great question. Yes and no. There's a little bit of an emotional, like, what do I feel? But there's some that I know that they're just too big to have to maybe be answered, but it's the why. And I'm working on the why. Like, yes, this is why they're as big as they are and as important in the story. And then there's a lot of, because they're cool, which counts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for my analysis of why I like each one, it can get pretty narrative of like what kind of character are they? What do they say about the profession of bounty hunting? What do they say about Star Wars?
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that the ones that I'm like, get out of here. I need for myself, Star Wars bounty hunters to look either real cool, real weird, or real different. Because like, there's some in the Clone Wars like cool, but you're not that weird. You're not that different. You're like an alien, and you kind of look tough.
Yeah.
But like, I need them to be kind of either super cool armor or super weird body type, or super specific weird skill. I realize that that's important to me. Like if they need to look like they're from Star Wars for me to really rank them high as a bounty hunter. A specific kind of Star Wars coolness or weirdness to them.
Yeah, I don't want like a corporate bounty hunter, like a 3-piece suit bounty hunter. Yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of that comes from Empire, which we'll talk about those kind of legends, an extended Mount Rushmore bounty hunting. But yeah, I think there's something to what you're saying there. Not necessarily that just the weirder they are, the more cool they are as a bounty hunter, but just that they're. I don't know how you feel, but it seems like every bounty hunter in Star Wars that would make our list is aware that they're a cool bounty hunter.
Yes, I'm tempted to start my number 10 with the bounty hunter that everyone despises, because it tells a story, and that's Toro Calican. I'm not sure I'm going to do this, but almost for the sake of discussion, I want to start with Toro Calican because I don't like him, and I don't think you're supposed to. He does not meet my metric of looking cool. He's just a punk, who's trying to dress cool, right? Like it's like it's like he went to the space version of an army surplus store to try to look cool. He didn't come by those duds. He's playing dress up. He thinks the profession is something it isn't, right? He thinks it's about glory and proving your name and all these things. And the bounty hunters who really do it, it's like, no, it's a job. It's a brutal job. And maybe, your name rings out and that allows you to do the job even better because you got fear on your side and you get to be the biggest, deadliest hunter around. And you get that title. But it really is just about that making money. And he just totally misunderstands it. So I don't know.
This is fascinating because he absolutely would not be on my list, but this is not the point of it. But and in the live stream I did this morning, the vertical live, like someone was like, "Well, there's one person who won't be ranked, Toro Calican," and then I was like, "Ha ha ha!" Yeah, but I was like, "Well, in the back of my head, I know Joseph really loves what this character represents, and I didn't like him, and it's like my least favorite episode of Mando. He's my least favorite character, but over time." It's 2019 that this character, right? Or in early 2020, maybe, because he was episode 5. Regardless, around that era. Thematically, he has a lot of weight. And what you're describing, I'm interested in the idea that he's presenting of he's almost like we're describing. He is aware that he's a bounty hunter and how cool it is. And like it misses the entire point, which makes him valuable. I don't know. I'm not talking yet. If that's your choice for Ted, that there's weight there.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I can do it.
I'm glad you brought him up, though.
We're gonna get down to like number 3, and we're gonna be like, ooh, and I'm gonna have wrecked our list with Toro Calican. You know what? She should maybe be higher, but in the spirit of that episode, I don't think the point was for anybody to ever like Toro Calican. I think the point was for us to hate to dislike and pity him. And in his place, I will put Fennec Shand, who I think is a phenomenal character. I think brought all of the weight of the real world relationship with the actor. And did an amazing job. And I think she also has a good bounty hunter story to tell, because I think over all of her appearances, we meet her in that episode, and she's the real deal. She's deadly, and lives a
Mm.
life of coldness and a lack of mercy, and almost falls to that
Mm-hmm.
lack of mercy, that philosophy. But then we get to see her when she's younger in the Bad Batch too, and see that she is somebody who's just
Right.
like, hey, the world has kicked me around, and I have learned the lesson that you got to be out for number one, because everybody in the galaxy is out for number one. So it is the way to survive, and it's foolishness and death to think otherwise. But within that, I can still make my own decisions, and I still want to protect and watch out for this kid,
Mm.
Omega, while still doing my job.
Yeah.
So I think she was a great twist on. She isn't a bounty hunter with a heart of gold. She feels like a very real world person of like, the world kicked me around, and I learned that you kick first or you get kicked.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna try to stay true to my morals, but that's the way to survive in this galaxy. Also, just absolutely tons of cool shots, and I think just the right amount of design, so she isn't just like a person with armor. Like
Yeah.
the black and the orange is distinctive. The combination of an expert sniper who can get you from far away to that whole sort of master assassin thing that played
Yeah.
off with her, like appearing from the shadows from nowhere to brutally murder
Right.
the baddies in Book of Boba Fett. I'll give number 10 to Fennec Shand.
I think it's a great spot. That might have been one of my earlier was going to be maybe one of my earlier choices, because I think she's still pretty new, even though again now we're talking 5 years. But I like she falls in that category of someone that shows up, a character, a design, whatever. Sometimes it's a ship, sometimes it's a planet, and it's brand new and it's unfamiliar and you don't know. But the way they designed it, the way it's portrayed, again, Ming-Na, wonderful performance. The right amount of stoic, the right amount of heart. I love the animated version, but she just feels like she's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
She just has such a great design, and I like she's got the. In fact, when you look her up, she's kind of some people might call her an assassin, some might call her a bounty hunter. I think she's got two different skill sets, and they meet right nice in the middle, which might factor a little bit down for me. This isn't a technicality thing about bounty hunter versus assassin. Just like, hey, she's got a well-rounded portfolio.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's a great choice. I love it, and okay. I'll talk for days on days about the design. But you said the black kind of orange, it pops, and it works. So yeah, that's a wonderful choice. Fennec Shand,
Excellent,
number 10.
excellent. It was a close call there, but Fennec wins.
I think I might have put Fennec at 9. I think she was kind of. I was looking at the list there, and I'm gonna. So my number 9 nominee here is it's official. It counts. It's also somewhat of a cheat. This happens sometimes when you're in when you in fantasy baseball, there's position eligibility. So you can draft a player who's like, say, a left fielder, but they played 5 games at second base, so you can count him as a second baseman. But everyone else in your league is like, you jerk. You know that guy's not. He's a left fielder. So my number 9 nominee is Asajj Ventress, who is so much more than bounty hunting, but her run as a bounty hunter is very memorable. It contains some of my favorite storytelling in the Clone Wars. It kind of is a warm home for her to be in a little bit. I'm like, this feels nice. This feels nice in my soul. She goes in some wonderful spots after. We've, of course, seen her since in the Bad Batch. I don't know. She still might take a job here and there, I would think. I just like it. It's a great use of the character. I like, too, that she kind of was in the upper crust. She was a Jedi. She was a Sith. She was all these other categories. Then she kind of fell down to what some might think is literally a lower level of Star Wars and finds herself kind of at home in the underworld. And then I think she leaves a mark on one of the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy, young Boba. So therefore, I put Asajj Ventress at number 9, if that pleases the court.
It pleases the hell out of the court, if I'm the court. Yeah, she's definitely on my list. I don't think it's a second base person situation.
I'm hedging a little bit there. Racing, I should say.
Look, if Asajj Ventress did an Eras tour, Bounty Hunter would be one of the eras, right?
There you go. Wonderful.
Yeah, and I think she's a great character because she is always trying to find her place and find belonging. And I think what a great contrast to the story of Maul, who can't accept that he's been rejected by the Sith. And I don't even know if she ever really cared about like, but I wanted to be the Sith, and we were going to overthrow. Like, just wanted to belong, right?
Yeah.
I think she wanted to belong, and I think she wanted her agency. And I think in being a bounty hunter, that's what's great is she found maybe not belonging, but certainly agency. And I like that instead of I'm going to try to take. I know eventually she is convinced to go after Dooku, but that's not her motivation of I'm going to go after the master who wronged me. She gives up on that and it's like, well, got to get by.
Yeah.
I'll try out this bounty hunting thing.
Give it a go.
And then what I love about that story with Boba is her figuring out like, oh, I have enough power to do this the way I want. And if I think the bounty is just, I'll do it and I'll get my money. And if not, if I think you're a monster, the guy who hired me, I'll throw you in a box.
You're gone too.
My power, my choice. As a bounty hunter is pretty cool.
I love it. I love compared it to the eras. That's right. ForceCenter has made a statement. Asajj Ventress, Taylor Swift, one and the same. One and the same. But that's my number 9 choice. All right, we're working fast here. I love it. Fennec Shand, Asajj Ventress. Sir, who do you put out there as number 8?
Ooh, you know what? I feel he gets left out of conversations. You didn't leave him out in your build up, but I feel I must not leave him out because he gets forgotten too often. And it's poor old Greedo. This is not a list of who are the best bounty hunters in the galaxy because Greedo has no claim to that list whatsoever. It's our subjective favorite bounty hunters. He is the original. He's trying to collect the bounty on Han. He isn't just like Jabba's errand boy, as Han says. Like he's trying to collect a bounty. He does a very poor job of it. He gets fried. Poor Greedo. I love his weird appearances in the Clone Wars. Also, not being even remotely successful at his tasks. He's not a good bounty hunter, but he's one of the greatest designs in all of Star Wars. Birthed the entire Rhodian species all by himself. Looks great in heels in the behind-the-scenes photos. That is such a phenomenal scene in A New Hope, and before the idea of bounty hunters was really crystallized into its absolute coolness with Boba Fett and the rest of the bounty hunters in Empire Strikes Back. We had Greedo. And I know I've told this story before, but we were playing with our action figures, and I think my brother was being like, well, Greedo really shouldn't be here because he's dead. And my dad was watching a Western, and somebody got shot, and they got back up again. I was like, how did that happen? And my dad was like, he just got nicked. It's like, I didn't remember the film. I was like 5-6 years old, right? I didn't remember that he got shot in the gut and smoke billowed out. So I go around telling everybody, Greedo just got nicked.
I love
he's alive.
First of all, we got to talk to your brother here about laying down figure rules here about canon in 1980 or whatever. I don't know about that. I love this. I've told the story. It's old ForceCenter lore, but how when I was on the playground trying to convince some of my friends when we were divvying up parts to play Lando, and one of them was like wavering. I don't know about Lando, and I was like, oh, he's got kind of force abilities. Like he can call a lightsaber to him. Oh, really? Okay, cool. I love playground rules. I love your determination. Greedo's not smoking. He's just resting.
He just got nicked in all of his vital organs and spine. Besides that, he's fine.
All right, so I love this choice. You actually, I love that you pointed out to my own title here, our favorite Star Wars bounty hunters. I'm sorry, I'm going to another baseball reference here, people. I'm sorry. There is a legendary first baseman played in the 60s named Marvelous Marv Throneberry. And he is famous for being perhaps the worst first baseman ever. And so growing up as a baseball fan, I knew all the, Willie McCovey, my favorite Don Mattingly, all these first basemen who were Keith Hernandez, all these legends. And there was always the legend of Marvelous Marv Throneberry. What was he famous for? Sucking. So
He was
Greedo,
marvelous at it, I'm sure.
he's marvelous. So Greedo fills that, and no disrespect, I'm sure Greedo's got some jobs. We've seen him be somewhat successful over the years, but the legend of him, build him up. He is for us the first one we saw, and I'm choking here on my own Greedo. When what you kind of learn from that, forget the Han shot first debate. I don't need none of that, and the McClunky of it all. You learn that it's dangerous, right? Star Wars is dangerous. This bar, where you and I grew up afraid of the bartenders in our lives in our real world because of O'Hare and the Cantina bar. It adds danger. It adds to Han's lore, all that stuff. But yeah, so anytime someone says I'm a bounty hunter, it's not all glory. You could end up face down with a nicked spine like Greedo, and he has to be. He's part of the conversation. He's part of the conversation. We're talking bounty hunters. He doesn't set a bar. Everyone leaps over the bar that he sets if he did set one, but he's part of it, and he's successful. And I actually somewhat feel sorry for him.
Yeah, man, Marvelous Marv. Did he have that nickname before it was determined that he was a poor player?
I think I know. I think it just came with him, but he's fast. He's a fascinating story. If you ever look up Marvelous Marv, and I was reminded. I am looking up on Wikipedia. His grandson is director Craig Brewer. The Flash Ring and everything. Yeah, it's a weird connection. And I remember we had Craig Brewer on the old Schmoes days, and I think that came up at one point. And he mentioned it in passing. He's like, "Yeah, my grandfather was this guy named Marvelous Marv Throneberry." I'm like, "Whoa, the greatest first baseman that ever sucked." Yes, yes.
Well, so, I'm happy for Marvelous Marv and good luck, Greedo.
Good luck, Greedo. That's a great choice. Oh, I love that. All right. Oh man, you might have changed some of my direction. That's what I'm saying. You might have changed my direction here. But I just made a list. I didn't put mine in order, so I'm going wild out here today. Yeah, no, this is great. I'm gonna go with a favorite. I'm gonna get him in now because then I think we'll get really serious. But my number 7 choice, someone I've celebrated here for years, made the leap to live action in the Book of Boba Fett, and that is Black Krrsantan. Love Krrsantan. His first frame in the comic book, I think it's the Vader comic or the main Star Wars line. It's been 10 years. But he shows up, and it's like, whoa, who the bleep is this guy? This extra tall, kind of blackish, grayish, furred Wookiee with a scar, and he's a bounty hunter. And it's almost like the old days of G.I. Joe or Transformers or just toys in the 80s where you had Chewbacca, you had the Autobot version, and then you had the Decepticon version. and that was what Black Krrsantan was for me. And then he stuck around. I was looking at a little article today, just kind of gathering choices and reminding myself of things. Someone was like, Black Krrsantan has like survived some in terms of just living longer than like legacy characters in the canon storyline, which I love. And then he shows up in Book of Boba Fett and just talk about our favorite bounty hunters. The slow realization on my face. I don't love doing reactions. We don't do reaction videos much here. But if I was to do a reaction video of that Book of Boba Fett episode, you would see me slowly being like, "Oh," and then explaining to my partner Grace on the couch, like, "You don't understand. This Krrsantan, he's so cool." And he has a part in one of my favorite scenes of Book of Boba Fett with Garsa Fwip and everything there. So number 7, Black Krrsantan. I'm putting him here now.
Oh yeah, no, he's got to go there, and I put him on my list, but I was also like, this is great. I'm not going to have to bring him up because Ken will take care of it.
Exactly.
Here are 2 things I love about Black Krrsantan. I don't know all the depths of Star Wars Legends, and I'm sure there was 8 Wookiee bounty hunters in Star Wars Legends. But in terms of the modern canon, he really exemplified that kind of hanging out at the playground, hanging out the bar. What if? Like, you got Chewbacca, right? And he's the Wookiee we know, but could there be a Jedi Wookiee? Could there be a really nasty bounty hunter Wookiee? And giving him the black fur, so on the nose, the scar, and the vibro knuckle dusters, whatever the hell they're technically called. Right. It's just there's something about him that is so over the top 80s, early 90s comic book badass. Yes. That I love that they just kind of went there of like he seems like he was just summoned from the fever dream of, a 16-year-old in 1989.
Yep.
But what if?
Yep.
Wouldn't it be cool if there's a badass Chewbacca and he looked exactly like this? So I love that he's just sort of a fever dream come to reality. And he truly defeats the bounty hunter curse of Star Wars, the bounty hunter plague of a lot of times we'd get to see a bounty hunter. They would look like the coolest thing ever. And then we wouldn't get to see them do that much, or they wouldn't quite live up to it, right?
Yeah.
Black Krrsantan starts on a comic book page, and then in live action, kind of lives up to it, right? I mean, like those fights with Boba are vicious. The wounds he takes are vicious.
Yeah.
He's throwing people, punching people, ripping arms out. Like he isn't the bounty hunter sometimes curse of standing in the background looking real cool. He lives up to his legend.
He does indeed, and he learns to have some emotions. He's just Krrsantan. We can do that song. Where's Ryan Gosling on that song? He's Krrsantan enough. Yeah, I love what you're saying about it. It totally is that '80s vibe. It's totally. And sometimes I gravitate to that, and sometimes I push against that. But it works for this character. It was also in the final note for me of like when I first saw that first frame in the comic book, I just was won over immediately. Maybe even against my intentions, of my soul to keep me away from legends or something like that. Love it. Okay. Black Krrsantan. All right. So Fennec Shand, Asajj Ventress, Greedo, Black Krrsantan. We got you at number 6. What do you have?
Well, Ken, now we're just in trouble. Now I just have to look in the mirror and ask myself, what kind of list do I want to make? Yep. Do I want to make a list that's got some surprising out of left field choices? Or do we want to get down to like, no, but seriously, yes, they're more obvious choices, but it's because we spent a lot of time with them and they have exemplified what bounty hunters are. Like now is where we're going to get down to, do you want to make the weird choices or do you want to get real? and make the obvious choices that are the choices that most fans would be like, how did you make a bounty hunter list and leave X off?
Yeah.
We're getting into that dangerous territory now.
And you played a Greedo card, as I think you should have, early. And that's one of those like outside the box choices. But he's also a classic, so it's I know where you're at.
So I think I maybe only have one more out of the box choice, and even that is going to put me in danger.
Okay.
So I got 2 real come on choices.
I love that. Come on.
I got one that I'm putting on no matter what, and I got. All right. I'll split the difference. The difference. This is not that wild of a choice. And people expect me to make it because I talk about him often. But Embo from the Clone Wars.
Here? Oh my God! I was like, oh, that's Joseph's number 1. I'm backing off on Embo. I love this. Okay.
So the list of things to love about Embo. I think part of the reason I love him is that he has not yet made the leap to live action. He is a bounty hunter that exists in of course his wonderful appearances in the Clone Wars and a decent amount of publishing appearances, some comic books even that I haven't had a chance to get caught up with. I love how much the prequel era Clone Wars expanded the visual language of what Star Wars can be. And within some of those expansions, there's some kind of different looks for bounty hunters. One of my real outside the box, I put her on the list, is Sugi. I like what she says about bounty hunting as a character. I love her interactions with Kenobi, but like in terms of design, like she, she's a lady.
I get you.
She's a Zabrak lady from Urdonia. This is partially my bias that my view of what a bounty hunter looked like. It was formed in 1980 by the bounty hunters that Darth Vader hired, and they should be weirdos and look different, real different, real unique. And what's their shtick, right? Even as an action figure, IG-11 came with that really long blaster, and that made him different.
Right.
So Embo feels to me like if the camera had just moved over a little bit more in 1980, we could have seen Embo. He so fits in with that original pack of 1980 bounty hunters, and this is just total older person bias. But I know a lot of younger people like him because he's just damn cool. The I love that he's stoic. I love that we really don't know a lot about him. He seems every once in a while to make a little bit more of a moral choice. We get to see him on the Clone Wars, kind of fighting on the side that we agree with. He's protecting those farmers. He's taking a good bounty.
Right.
But I love that his appearances in that Scipio episode where he can he's a real threat and he's shooting people from far away. He's cold-blooded assassinating, and takes it to Anakin, and he's a risk. The hat is just so cool. Like every bounty hunter should have a shtick, right? Like that's what somebody needed to pull Toro Calican aside and say, forget glory. What's your shtick? If you're an action figure, what would be your thing you come with? If we squeeze your legs, what would you do? Does a second head pop out? What's your shtick?
Yeah.
Like bounty hunters are basically pro wrestlers. You need a shtick, right? And Embo's got a shtick. He's got more than
I love
he's got a hat that can do anything. It's a shield. True. It's a battering ram. It's a flying Olympic disc that he can whack people with. It's a sled. This hat can do it all. It can make dessert for you. This hat is just it's so beautiful. And then you got his Anuba Merrick, I believe. The pet that shows up.
He's got a pet,
and he's got a pet. How can he be that bad of a guy, right?
Right.
But he's that cool guy at school that you never really meet or know, and so you can kind of imagine what you want about him. Embo's just got it going in spades as a bounty hunter.
I love it. He's a new kid in school, but no one really knows where he's from. We don't ask Embo questions here. I mean, this is great. I'm surprised it's this low, but also I know there's some big choices left to be made. Love it. And here's the thing. I'll tell you the thing I love about Embo. It's that you love him. Meaning there's a lot of great things to love. And by the way, I can't wait. There's got to be a time where he shows up in live action.
Come on.
The Mando and Grogu movie. Like, Filoni loves this character. And I want to see him riding that helmet and using it as a shield in live action. I want to see
he's going to blow. He could make a big splash in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
You could do it.
Embo versus Zeb? Come on.
Embo versus Zeb. And, I know I say shield, it's his hat, but if Legolas can ride a shield downstairs shooting arrows and everyone just universally loves it for decades, as they should, Embo should show up. But it is one of those things where when we started a ForceCenter in 2015, I'd seen all the Clone Wars. I love the Clone Wars. I couldn't remember all the details, right? And you come along and we start talking about things, and it's like you would mention Embo, and I kind of back in my head be like, who the hell's Embo? Which one's Embo?
What's an Embo?
What's an Embo? And then it's like, didn't he appear in a clone? Like, wow, Joseph loves the guy. Okay, that's great. And the term Glup Shido and all that stuff was far down the line. And then it's like, through you, I've learned more about Embo. And then now when he shows up, or even anyone that looks like him, it's like Embo. And I've associated, I absolutely cannot separate the character from your love from the character. So therefore, your thoughts on him are almost my thoughts. And I just absolutely love the design. He's perfect for the Clone Wars series. And perfect in that sense of you're talking about panning over. Like if we just panned over just one more and seen, his feet over Piet's head. Bounty hunter, we don't need their scope. Look at their hats; they're large, too large. Anyways, all that to say, Embo's a great choice. I think Clone Wars, it was a great he's out there in the galaxy. This cat exists, and it works. And look, if I was Vader, nothing against Dengar, I would have subbed Embo in for Dengar at this point. This isn't Clone Wars era Dengar. It's slovenly Dengar. What are you doing? Do you think Dengar showed up and Vader was like, almost revealed that he's Anakin, but like that, you aren't who I remember you to be. What happened, buddy? Like going to your high school reunion, you're like, oh, Dengar, gotcha, man.
Oh yeah, that is really funny. Vader's ticking off. Could kick your ass easily. Could kick your ass. You might put me through my paces a little bit. Could kick your ass. Kick your ass. Yeah.
Great. Anyways, all right. So Embo, great choice. Any final thoughts on Embo? I want to give you the opportunity. He's your boy, Blue.
Now I want him in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I want him. Yeah,
he's got that. It's one of the things I do love about Filoni of no character left behind, because he is a writer director whatever for the Clone Wars. He spent so much time with this guy, and I gotta think, and I think George loved Embo too. I think that speaks to George. Like, give him a big hat.
Yeah. All right.
Great choice.
Not many choices left.
There's not many choices left, and you are right. We are getting to the where do you want to? Do you want to be cute? Do you want to be honest, direct? There's some I'm leaving off, but we'll have a chance to maybe talk about the close choices if we want. It's definitely. I've tipped my. It could be yours, but it tipped my hand. It's not Dengar. It's not Zuckuss. Not 4LOM or 4LOM as I grew up calling them, though they're part of it. I do think I'm going to slip in a classic, but he wasn't always a classic. I'm going with Jango Fett. And
oh, good. Whew.
Yeah, I love Jango. And the case for Jango being now in top 5 of the bounty hunters is, yes, some legends came after him. That's sometimes how it is. You know, he's there in the early part of the game. He's setting the bar. But also, Dooku and Cypher Diaz and all that, the team behind the clones were like, who's the best? Who can we make thousands, if not millions of? Oh, this guy, Jango. He's the template. He's the video game character you designed to make your own. He's the guy. And I think I'd be curious for the prequel generation kids who maybe met him first. Probably would want him even higher. We have a little bit of that original trilogy stink on us of like, oh, there was a little bit of that feeling. I didn't have that completely. I was intrigued by the idea. I think on the surface, it could seem silly in a way of Boba Fett, Jango Fett. But I love the execution of it. He owns the greatest sound effect in the world comes from his ship. That kept me in love with the Attack of the Clones when maybe I was struggling with some parts of it. He's cool. The design factors into the story of Boba later on. I don't want to overlook him. And I think Jango, over the years, can be overlooked. So he's my number 5 choice.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think people of different generations have a strong relationship to him because he was the first to them or played his video game.
Yeah,
and I think it would be a great disrespect to leave him off this list because in the lore of Star Wars, he is one of the best bounty hunters ever, and that's agreed on by the Sith. If the Sith are looking around going, "Who's a badass?" and pick you, you need to be on the list, right? I also just think I was not bothered at all by some of the line delivery being a little cutesy from young Boba Fett, fine, but I had no problem with learning that Boba Fett was tied to the stormtroopers, learning that Boba Fett had this father, and I think part of it was Jango Fett just looked really cool. His blaster sound effect, the ship chase with Obi-Wan. Right. And then I think for me, sitting in the theater in the year 2002 was one of those, look how far we've come. We meet a bounty hunter right away, has a cool ass fight. And with Obi-Wan Kenobi, no less. I think some of the love of Jango Fett from younger people, they would have to hear from older people like us are like, yeah, but Boba Fett's cooler. They go watch those movies and go like, doesn't do much compared to his dad, you know?
Right.
But on the character level, I know there's been stuff in Expanded Universe. Now there are great implications based on the canon stuff about the chain code in his armor, that he was a Mandalorian by creed. What I like about him just in Attack of the Clones is, brutal dog eat dog worldview, but this brutal man who is picked by the Sith because he was one of the most brutal people in the world. Like, I want legacy. I want to go on in some way. I want someone to, love and train and for somebody who has a view of the galaxy that it's this brutal and dog eat dog, for him to be like, but also I want a son.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That speaks to a character who has some more complex worldview.
Yeah, he's just a simple man trying to make his way through it all, right? And a coded. I love that Hondo has that lesson for Bobo of kind of the I know your dad kid kind of vibe. And when
he was a man of honor.
He was a man of honor. And look, when I say he's overlooked, for many people he isn't overlooked, and for our generation he might be, and all those things. But he's a part of the story. I love what they've done with him, and I just There you go. Making my claim. Number 5, Jango Fett. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
all right.
Okay. So and I'm also going to update here. I realize my tradition of making sure the quote-unquote guest, because you're a guest on your show that you've been here for 11 years now. But Star Wars Ranked was always to have the other voice or voices have the number 1 choice. We're going to alter it a little bit. We got your number 4 choice here now, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go 2, and then you're going to go 1.
Okay, good. That takes a little pressure off of me.
Okay.
Then. Good.
Okay.
Good. But I only have 2 choices left. And on my own personal list, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah,
Okay.
7. I can get rid of one. I have 7 candidates left.
Except for 2 slots. Okay.
And now, what's fun about this structure is it really is. This is like playing chicken, except instead of driving at one another on a dark, deserted highway, it's naming bounty hunters. Yes. But it's like, will Ken pick that one? Yeah. Am I safe to not pick that one? All right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have to go with my heart. This will not surprise anyone either, but it is just my personal truth, and I need to make sure he appears on the list. And that is Bossk. Bossk is one of the more developed characters as a bounty hunter. He has, of course, an incredibly memorable experience in Empire Strikes Back. I would say in terms of time on screen and quality time on screen, he is the second only to Boba Fett. We get the toe and the gargle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We don't need their scum.
The toe and the gargle.
And I've spoken many times about how my brother and I divided things up. And some of that happened naturally. Every once in a while, he'd come along and go, "We need to pick, and I'm taking Batman." Right. And so you are Robin. But then I was like, but I am the younger brother, and I related to Robin. I think I would have picked Bossk anyway, but it was like, he was Boba Fett, period. He had the Boba Fett action figure. Han was his guy. Boba Fett was Han's archenemy. And so Bossk was my bounty hunter. I had the action figure. It was my action figure. It was a weird one because he had that very different blaster, and his little claws curled weirdly to hold it. I adored that action figure. And if that's all Bossk was, he'd be on my list. But the way they developed the entire, Trandoshan society, and Bossk being just sort of feral and angry and almost always coming in second. So he's really brutal and really a badass, but never quite winning the day. I loved spending a little bit more time with him in the Clone Wars. I love the history that his outfit comes from, a significant Doctor Who episode, The 10th Planet. He was one of my absolute favorites to play in the Battlefront game, where he would throw his Dioxis poisoning and either say Dioxis, or sometimes he would say, breathe death.
Yes.
He's one of those characters that I have a deep childhood love because I connected with the action figure all the way up to they're still telling great stories with him today in publishing and video games. So yeah, Bossk it is.
This is a great choice. First of all, I hope this isn't having too many flashbacks to having to pick action figures as a kid, where we're going down a list and doing a snake draft here. Bossk is a great choice. I didn't have him high on my personal list, but that's maybe wrong. One of the things Bossk does is, and so I'm trying to take this early 80s, right? So I did fall into Return of the Jedi first, and then, but Empire. So but it all kind of becomes one memory. But Bossk is one of those characters that establishes that those weird Star Wars characters that are, it's a lizard, it's a walking, talking, killing iguana, or however you want to look at it, are real, and that is the sci-fi part of Star Wars, and I just accept that easier because of characters like Bossk, and I love the design, and I love to get to spend more time with them, and the voice choices over it, just the fact that they're like, yeah, no, he'd sound like he has a little bit of a snake lisp, like that's what he is. But he is very weird, but he's so normal in that, and that's because I think he sets that standard. I think, Greedo, I would say, early shows up, and you're like, whatever that is walking and talking in Star Wars. We got Chewbacca, but other than that, I don't know, New Hope, unless I'm missing something dramatic. Jawas and all that stuff, but It isn't until like Bossk shows up, and then his legend grows in figure form,
Mm-hmm.
and his legend grows in Clone Wars and other shows and everything like that. So, anyways, I love him. I think it's a great choice, and he's got the one big factor I think you need for a bounty hunter. He's intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect that he's the one gargling and growling to Piet's words. It works.
Yeah, if it was Dengar, he'd probably just have like a drippy nose or something. Like, bounty hunter, we don't need their scum. He hasn't washed in days.
Yeah. Number 4, Bossk. All right.
Yep. All right. Now we see if my gamble has paid off.
Yeah. So we got 3 spots left. I'll go number 3. I'll go number 2, and I'm going to leave you number 1. And this is tough. And I have to go. God, this could. All right. I'm committing to this. I am going number 3 with perhaps many people's number 1, and that is Boba Fett.
Ooh.
Now, if that you feel that's too low, if that's I don't know, we can negotiate. But here's why I would personally put Boba Fett number 3, not 2 or 1. Is the design spectacular, legendary, set the tone for cool background character that becomes something more or becomes something more in your head. Love where he ends up. I know it's not for everyone. I'm not even talking about the show Book of Boba Fett, but I know I've talked to folks. I talked to a Boba Fett cosplayer at a convention once who was like, man, it just what they did with the character is not my Boba Fett. And he wasn't being an a-hole about it. He was just like, I like the silent killer. And now he's got more of a heart of gold, and that's not wrong. Now, I would argue George introduced that once he went back, and that George built upon that in the Clone Wars. You get to know more of his story. So I love that about him. But I personally, this is a favorite list. I did not connect with Boba Fett until later in my Star Wars life, other than, hey, he's cool. Other than his rocket fires, if you got the right figure, one of 3 left in the world, whatever. Like, loved all that. But I didn't spend a lot of time with him. And as a kid, watching him die and the Sarlacc burp was hilarious to me. Like, I had no problem with that. Because I think you and I talk about having just enough of an age difference where you will say, like, hey, I spent more time wondering what the hell's going on with this guy.
It was deeply offensive. It was not funny. It was deeply offensive.
I was like, it's amazing. Dad, did you see it? It burped. Swallowed this up. But that also sets a Star Wars tradition of, hey, your expectations, keep them in check. Yeah. But I'm with you on that. But anyways, for me, he ranks lower because as a figure and a character, he set a bar. And I know we talked about it in story. Jango sets it, but he sets a bar. As me as a Star Wars fan with a bounty hunter, how cool they can be. And others have just surpassed it. No fault of Boba Fett, just the success of the other characters. And me going, oh, that's what a bounty hunter is? Okay, cool. I like that, but I like these ones better. That's why I rank them 3.
Okay. Interesting. I am both incredibly relieved and mildly offended.
Perfect.
I'm not actually offended. I would have put him number 1. This was what I was waiting for. Is like, is Ken going to take Boba Fett out of the plate? Because he's got to be on the list, and he's probably got to be number 1 for me. But I have no argument with him being at number 3.
Okay.
Because he's got to be on the list, and he's got to be, pretty low on the list or high, depending on,
Okay.
To me, I love talking about Greedo because he's like the forgotten. He's the sort of trivia. We forget that he's actually the first bounty hunter in practice, in cultural awareness, in popularity. Boba Fett is the first bounty hunter, right?
Yeah.
Technically, it's Greedo, but really, in the culture's eyes, it's Boba Fett. Yeah, I can't even put into words how cool he was, how mysterious. You learn through the ethos that he, as a kid, at least I did, that he was Han Solo's arch enemy, and that he's the only one who outsmarts Han after watch Han do clever trick after clever trick in Empire Strikes Back. I loved that he took it to Luke. I was not happy with how he died.
Which, you and I would have been yelling on the playground.
Yeah, like what? 3 years to imagine what is he? He's got knee darts, like Anyway, but now I do like it's the hubris. He's going after the Jedi. Every Jedi he sees is a chance to avenge his father.
Yeah.
And he's obsessed with taking out Luke and not paying any attention to blind Han, and it's his
Mm-hmm.
hubris that gets him in there. That's what makes the Sarlacc burp. That extra bit of hubris he's choking on.
Spicy hubris. We'll do that.
Spicy hubris. The design is legendary. For me, he's kind of an important character because I always loved him. But I really kind of had that moment. It's like part of my transition into adulthood of like, as my brother and I got older, it's like, well, we're not even playing with action figures anymore. I can like Batman, damn it. I can like Boba Fett, damn it. I can get my own action figures of them. And I remember when I got my Power of the Force Boba Fett action figures. So good. So good. Yeah. But what I really love about him is I have total respect for people who grew up with him as what's fun about him is he's the hunter with no name. He's the mystery behind the mask. He's almost a dreamlike he's like Michael Myers. He's unknowable and he's just a mask of fear when he comes for you. That's a really cool character. That's a really cool idea. And I got no grudge against anybody who's like, I like that character and that's what I want him to be. And that's what he was for me for a long time, and I liked it. But the person who doesn't like it is the person who created him, is George Lucas. And what I really love about the character of Boba Fett is he still has that mystique. He still is this, fearsome warrior. You see him coming for him, you just shoot yourself because he's going to get you. He's still that. But I like that Lucas's vision is such a moral one of nobody is just born a badass. There's a reason that people make the choices they can, and they can always make a different choice. And you guys all fell in love with this mystery killer in a way I didn't ever mean to. So I'm going to make him a human who makes choices. He comes from trauma. He lost his father. And you immediately start pulling that thread in the Clone Wars. And I love that Favreau in particular, but, Filoni as well, and Rodriguez as well.
Yeah.
Picked that up and ran with it. It's like he is both. He is a mysterious, terrifying bounty hunter, and he's a human who is capable of making horrific choices and capable of making better choices. And that's why I love the story of Book of Boba Fett is he's still a brutal, vicious killer.
He's not sweet.
Who does the most badass thing in the world of like, I'm in a cage. I put myself in a cage with my worldview, and I let my worldview imprison me. And I was just a soldier who followed other people's orders while I lied to myself that I was free. I'm actually going to be free. And I'm going to look around and decide who deserves for me to come to their door.
Yeah.
And I understand the Boba Fett going around going, no drugs, kids, especially... from people who grew up in the 80s, to have Boba Fett doing a Nancy Reagan shit. I understand why you reject that. But for me, it is him going, I don't have to just be a killer who other people point and I go, okay, I can decide who, I can be a man of honor. And I can decide these teens should have water and not be, basically, manipulated and abused into a life of poverty because of drugs.
This is all resonating and wonderful.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna. I could offer you a deal here as the game show host. I got number 2. Boba Fett slots perfectly for number 3 for me. Do you want to take a deal where you could slot him number 1, but I'll let you come back and put someone at 3 based on who I do it to? Do you want to turn this into a game show, or you're at peace with this and you're just going to see how this plays out?
I'm at peace with this. Okay. I think I'm at peace with this because that means that I can have my cake and eat it too. I can make a bonkers choice for number 1.
Yeah, you have a lot of power here. I love it. And look, you're saying everything I love about the Book of Boba Fett series and his choices. And again, this is one of those things that, and I never, like I said, when this guy was talking to me, we were on a panel together, and it was like Boba Fett was the first person he cosplayed as and everything, so he had a connection to it. I totally get where he's coming from. He wasn't being bad faith about it. He wasn't being a jerk about it. But I just would always argue that what you're talking about was the Clone Wars that changed Boba. It wasn't Disney and I don't want to go down that Disney Star Wars route, but like that happened a long time ago.
I totally respect anybody who prefers that version of the character, but that was changed in 2002 by George Lucas.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. All right. All right. This is it. My number two. My number two. I'm not even sold on it because it now becomes a game of what's in your heart, what's in your cell. You already chose. I would have thought Embo would have been your backup card for number one, but my number two is Cad Bane.
There we go. There we go. All
That's
right. All right. All right.
Okay.
That was
Now,
the big mystery.
that was the big mystery. And this is the almost direct example of, ooh, Boba Fett's great, but I like this guy a little bit more. And part of it is a little bit of, I'd say a lot of what you're talking about. Now, I don't think this is not always at play with Cad Bane until Book of Boba Fett, which is, talk about choices. Oh, he's made them. And his thing is, I am a killer. I am the best. This is who I am. And does that Duros stay awake at night dreaming about the things he's done wrong? I don't think so. If he did, it's a long way in the past. This is a wonderfully designed character. I've talked about this before. I've written about this in places. But for me personally, I was surprised that this worked for me. A straight Lee Van Cleef Western outlaw villain shows up with the trench coat and the cowboy hat and the cowboy blasters. As much as I grew up liking the Western genre, whatever that may be, if you would have just said that's in Star Wars, I would have been like, I don't know, that seems too on the nose. But then the character shows up, and I'm immediately won over by the brutality. And this isn't about wanting a character to be, dare I say, that dark and gritty or everything. It's just it was real. He was violent. He was presented in the Clone Wars, which was at the time still on Cartoon Network, Friday nights maybe. Check local listings, but it was still. It had that. Oh, Star Wars is doing a cartoon now, right? And Ewoks and droids was in our memory. And here's this guy. He shows up in the first broadcast order, and it's not the actual canonical release order or canonical order, but the broadcast release order. He shows up and he's killing, he's kidnapping, he's taking hostages. He's got a toothpick in his mouth, and he's cool while he's doing it. And I just remember thinking, going from really quickly of oh to oh. And it's not just the admiring the coolness of this killer and the coldness of this killer, and ain't that cool. It was just like, oh, that's some danger and depth to Star Wars. I grew up with Greedo gets blasted, and that taught me the bounty hunting is bad. Now I got this guy who is a hard ass who chooses, and then he goes on, and then you talk about the choice.
Mm-hmm.
It ends with him basically saying, you can't make this choice, but what choice? You are a killer like me too. You did bad things. I'm paraphrasing, but it is I'm not the bad guy. You're bad. If I'm bad, you're bad. And he's in that prison, and Boba's no longer. And I love that ending. And I've rewatched that intro, the live action intro of Cad Bane, long hoped for. Mm-hmm. It delivered for me, and then it delivered for me thematically, and to what you're talking about, and added a depth to this cold hard killer, a depth in absolute sadness. He's a lost cause, and I just love when he shows up. Love the character. So he's my number two, Cad Bane.
Yeah, no, Cad Bane needs to be on this list because in some ways, yes, he is. He's not like mysterious. We can't know him. We do kind of know him. There's just not a lot to know. He's just, this all works for me. I want to be the best. I get paid to be the best. I am the best, and that's the way it is. Maybe a little bit of a I think there is a depth to his final confrontation with Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett show, in that it almost feels a little bit like he's manipulating Boba Fett. He reads character well. He's not just some like brute, right? He's intelligent and savvy, and that's a part of what makes him scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like Boba Fett's ability to change is uncomfortable for him, right? Because it suggests that he could make a different choice, and he wants Boba Fett to admit that he's just a killer. Mm-hmm. That once you kill, you're a killer, and that's it. You know, and that's it. You know, life is simple. I know the way it works. Please don't challenge me with new ideas.
yeah. Please, no changes.
Please don't challenge the one thing Cad Bane can't kill: new ideas. Yeah, and just in the voice, I think sells it. Corey Burton doing an amazing job with that voice.
Oh yeah.
The Clone Wars. I think part of the whole Clone Wars thing is in that whole prequel era is people who wanted Star Wars to be a little bit more adult, a little bit more badass, really push back on anything that was cute, and
Hmm.
a child's perspective, more silly aliens in the pod race, blah 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 blah.
Sure.
But Cad Bane was one of those things that really kind of held down the badass. But within that, with the beautiful Star Wars weirdness of he is just like it, it's not like a Rhodian or an Ithorian, a wild Star Wars alien. It's abduct you in Nevada alien design,
Mm. Yeah.
combined with a cowboy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really in words. It's dumb.
Yeah.
In practice, it's so cool looking, and it
Yeah.
works in the animated show. And then to bring it into live action and make it just pure nightmare fuel. The design is so strong, and the character has been the shadow of what if Jango Fett and Boba Fett didn't change? What if they weren't people of honor? What if they were just brutal killers? Here's kind of the shadow of what a bounty hunter can be.
Mm-hmm. Mm. God, you're making me want to rewatch Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
I think that's next to my. I just finished my Kenobi rewatch. I think Book of Boba Fett's next.
So good.
Good. Okay. Well, good. I feel good with my number 2 choice of Cad Bane. I am completely curious about your number 1 choice. Take us on with our favorite bounty hunter. Where are you going?
Got a bunch of weirdos that I could have fun with here, but I'm gonna go with Ochi of. But no.
I was. Some people suggested it to me the other day, and I was like, okay, I could go with this.
He's on my list, and if this was our 12 or 15,
yeah,
he'd be on this list. I can't. I feel of the bounty hunters that we have discussed, since we've had our fun with our wild, a little bit more out of left field choices at the top, or a little less, well known, or second base people and Marvelous Marvs.
Marvelous Marv.
But the bottom of our list has been getting into no, but seriously though. So I think I have to give number 1 to the last of the biggest bounty hunters, and to me, that is Din Djarin.
I agree with that.
Easy to look at him and go, well, he's not a bounty hunter anymore, is he? Like, he's still taking bounties. That's where we left him. He's just taking honorable bounties. I think he really he comes from where you and I came from, of playing, because I did steal my brother's action figure sometimes and play with Boba Fett.
Good for you.
Play with the man of mystery, the impossible, unfeeling, unstoppable coolness personified, down to having the pulse rifle from the holiday special animation, Boba Fett's first appearance. I love that the advertising of what the show was he's a Mandalorian, but he's a bounty hunter. He's a real cool, nameless, faceless, maybe we're not even ever going to see his face, bounty hunter. And the surprise be that no, but he really is a man of honor. He introduces us to this very functional world of bounty hunting, and a little less of the badass and a little less of the glamour, and the more just like trying to make ends meet. Kind of desperate world of bounty hunting. And I know like the guild is there in the expanded universe and legends and all that, but this really gets it. Canonical view, we learn very early on that he's basically just trying to provide for his family, his extended family, huddled in the darkness, makes that connection with Grogu, and he goes on bounty hunting, and he goes on being quite vicious and brutal. But being such a person of honor, I think it does change the picture of what it means to be a bounty hunter. And we got a little bit with Asajj, but we get it all the way here with Din Djarin. Of all a bounty hunter means is I'm given a job to do, and how I do it is up to me. But what jobs I take is up to me. And I love that whole trajectory from I have all of these moral obligations. I don't break my word, but I've got my word in my belief as a Mandalorian, and this is a foundling, and he's my responsibility. And I've got my word as a sworn enemy of the Empire, and the Empire is going to do horrible things to that innocent child.
Right.
And I cannot bear to be the mask of death to that child. I am the mask of salvation to that child. And so I will break my word as a bounty hunter. and rescue the child. But then he goes on. He continues to take the bounties. He helps reform the bounty hunting system. And I love that where we end up with him is he's basically like, I have no soft skills. I can't get a desk job with the New Republic. I don't know how to do that. So I will still bounty hunt, but I only want to bounty hunt on the side for the New Republic to go after people who bleep and deserve it, Imperials. So our last bit of storytelling with him, he is still a bounty hunter with honor.
I think it's a great point. I kind of forgot that aspect of him. He's like, yeah, no, I go get bad guys too, and this is, I think this is a great choice. I think the Force guided our list here, because I think I kind of overlook him as a bounty hunter option. He was on my list of choices that I put down this morning, but his story goes far beyond it. But you're right, he doesn't leave that. It's still a part of him. In going back to how we grew up with, and so many of us grew up with, including John, including Dave, and everyone writing that show or on that show, bounty hunters was the classification. We just assumed, perhaps because of Vader and bringing the five classics to the Star Destroyer, we just assumed they were working with the Empire. For the most part, maybe, yeah. I'd love to see just a full Rebel bounty hunter. Maybe we can get that storytelling, but yeah, so the Mandalorian series, especially season 1, is such an expansion of that idea of what it is to be a bounty hunter. And this is why you and I always say that the idea of playing with your action figures should never be overlooked, never be talked down to or looked down upon. This is taking the stories from the screen and putting them in your hands. And yeah, it does kind of have that vibe of you dump the action figures on the floor and what if IG-88 got to walk and what if, yeah. But it's also got so much heart and spirit to it and purpose to move this particular character beyond what even his title is, which is a play with Book of Boba Fett as well. But yeah, and along the way, we got to see, I think, not counting expanded universe books or comics, no disrespect, video games. You mentioned the Star Wars Bounty Hunter video game with Jango and everything. In the modern era and in a way which we've never seen, I think we got to see the nuts and bolts of what it is to be a bounty hunter. We got to see how he works, where he sleeps, where he uses a refresher, what he does. And I still enjoy that a lot. This is why I'm staring up at the Razor Crest. It's still one of my favorite ships. It's a Volkswagen van on the go in space where you can hold your prisoners and your catches and your bounties, but also live. And I think I absolutely love that. And he's speaking of a new character that just seemed like he belonged. I was a little dubious, a little wary at first of, well, shouldn't it just be Boba Fett? Didn't John just pitch a Boba Fett story, but they couldn't do it because of the Mangle movie? Well, and not that I was dismissive, but I was just like, I don't know. And I never went for him. I'm not a Mando merc. I didn't spend a lot of time diving into the Mandalorian histories like others have. And it just quickly moved beyond that. The moment he picks up that puck, the moment he's in the game, the moment he's, I'm going to bring you in cold to bring you in warm, like, I'm in. And it's the story of a functional, working bounty hunter in the galaxy. I love it.
Yeah, bounty hunting. It's a cool day job, but it's not for everybody.
It's just my job. It ain't my life, man. And I think it honors what we grew up with. Jedi, rebels, bounty hunters. Those are your classifications.
Exactly.
All right. We did it. There's super close calls. We're not going to go long into the honorable mentions. It's what used to make the last Star Wars ranked 2 hours, and this is over an hour. IG-88, I do love it. Aura Singh went from a one shot in the prequels to the Clone Wars and Jamie King making her, I think, really important to the story. Boba Fett and Benny almost made my list. And then I wanted to acknowledge everyone, and I agree with it because I'm with y'all. Everyone loves Pocket from Skeleton Crew, Kelly MacDonald's character. She's if she shows up in other stories, I think she's going to start making these lists.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? For just background, I will throw out in Kenobi. I'm sorry, I don't remember the character's name right now. A dinosaur guy who's after.
Yes, in episode 2, when
the bounty on Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I'm not joking about Ochi Bastoon. Obviously, he can't be number 1, but just a great, terrifying design. And I know he's more of a Jedi hunter, but hey, I think he took some bounties on the side.
Yeah.
My last runner-up, Dengar. I kind of didn't put Dengar on because I don't know. I feel like let's we've beaten up on this
We've
guy
kicked.
for 40 years. We've kicked
Kicked
him
him down.
when he's down, and he's almost always been down. So let's somebody out there has a Dengar tattoo, and Dengar is their favorite bounty hunter, and let's give it a break on poor beating up on poor Dengar.
Yeah.
What I this is one of my twisty ones, but I do want to list it. Bush Bouch Boosh, Leia's disguise in Return of the Jedi. Such an amazing design, and I know they've done stuff now, storytelling of where she got the armor and who that real bounty hunter was and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But just kind of going back to that classic Leia in disguise with a look that if that had been the first out of the gate, if that bounty hunter design had walked in that parade in San Anselmo instead of Boba Fett, that would have been up there too. That's an amazing kick-ass design. The voice, the sound, so good. So I think just the guise of the fake bounty hunter that Leia is pretending to be deserves to be on the list.
You reminded me of a day in high school. I was sick. When, like you said you got your raspy sick voice. I was sick and a real flubby throat, and I just kept walking around with my friends and just going you day, until they were like, please stop. Like, but yeah, we get it. It's from Star Wars. We get it. No, wonderful design too. Absolutely wonderful design. And that figure, that Bausch figure from the Kenner line is a favorite for a lot of folks in terms of like, the detail, the mask coming off. Well, there you go. That is our list. We know that there's going to be some debate, discussion. That's what we like. You can post a comment down below on YouTube, reach out on social media. We're ForceCenter Pod in a lot of spots. Blue Sky, we're having a lot of fun on. This has been a lot of fun. It's a challenge to work through it in a fun way. I think we did good today. I think it came out all right. So thank you, sir. Final thoughts on bounty hunters as we head home.
No, I love going back to just as a kid and original trilogy era. I would separate out the three factions of rebels, imperials, and bounty hunters. I love that we've got so much bounty hunter storytelling. It isn't that they are the other bad guys besides the imperials. They are a whole classification on their own. We've got all this great storytelling to show that there are many, many ways to be a bounty hunter.
There are many ways to hunt and kill and capture. Hey, you can find us on social media, like I said, ForceCenter Pod, Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast, Instagram, YouTube. Subscribe here. Give us a like on all those good things. Leave a comment. Tell us where you rank Dengar. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter or at our Fourth Wall shop, link down below on YouTube. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us directly. Go to my website, cadnamsock.com, for information on upcoming comedy shows, including, if you're watching the week that we release this, January 10th, headlining show at Flappers Burbank, Friday night, 7:30. Joseph Scrimshaw on the lineup, Winston A. Marshall, other great comics as well. Come on out for that. Ticket information there. Sir, take us home with your information and where you would have ranked Dengar.
You know what? Dengar is 1B. All right.
There
all right.
you go.
He was already almost up there. Almost up there. I'm not even going to get into it. Anyway, for my Dengar thoughts, check out my blog. You can find links to all the different stuff I'm doing, film work I'm doing, to my actual blog. Finish Your Monsters on my website, josephscrimshaw.com, and find all my links to social media there as well. Very excited for January 10th to do a few minutes of comedy on Ken's Big Show.
Gonna be a fun time. We'll see you all there. That's it for now. Star Wars has been ranked.